Gilmore Girls gets therapized. Richard, Rory, Yale. You remember this epic blowout? I've got thoughts. Mended light. Listen, except in cases where it comes down to personal safety, it is never okay to take the reins out of somebody else's hands for their life. And that is exactly what Richard does on the infamous Taking Rory to Yale episode. My gosh, gave me such a headache as a family therapist watching all of this. So Richard says, hey, I want to take you to Yale, spend the day, it's my alma mater. Lorelai says, beware, Rory. Grandpa's got an agenda, this is a manipulation. And Rory says, I know, but he has his heart set on it, he's really excited about it, why don't you come with? And they're having a lovely day. As Richard and Emily remember falling in love on Yale campus, and Richard's pointing out to Rory all the places that he went to school, the issue is that Rory has her heart set on Harvard, always has. And their campus tour ends with a bang.
Wow.
Lions, tigers, and bears.
Oh my.
It's impressive, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I'd like to open a checking account, please.
What is this place?
This is the main administration building. The professor's offices, the dean's office. Some of the best scotch in the country can be found behind those doors.
Not sure how to take that, Dad.
Come on, follow me, please.
What's he so excited about?
Oh, who knows? Dickens must have dropped a pencil here at some point.
Rory, this is the office of a very dear friend of mine. His name is Harris Fellows, and he just happens to be the dean of admissions.
Really?
That's right. And I called him just before we came down, and I asked him if he had a little time to squeeze you in, and he said yes.
Squeeze me in.
For an interview.
An interview for what, Dad?
An interview for Yale.
Grandpa.
Oh, I told him all about you and your grades and how well you were doing at Chilton. Well, of course, he insisted on seeing you. He wouldn't let me off the hook.
But I haven't applied to Yale.
Oh, I told him that you weren't finished deciding, that you were being very picky. I think that made him want
Emily's face.
They can be very competitive, these Ivy League schools. He's expecting you at 3. Oh, look, it's 3 now. Well, we timed this perfectly, didn't we? Come on, I'll walk you in. We'll be right back.
Rory, honey, you don't have to go in there.
What? Well, of course she's going to go in there.
Rory, honey, the only person I'm talking to, you don't have to go in there if you don't want to.
Lorelai, the man is waiting.
You want to leave? Because we can just leave.
No, it's okay. I'll go in.
Harris is a very nice man, Rory. I think you two are really going to hit it off. Come on, I'll walk you in.
So this is something I was talking with my friend Mike, our videographer, who's actually right behind the camera right now, just yesterday, which is this notion that people believe in their causes, whatever that cause may be, and so then they justify almost whatever behavior, right? It's okay for the greater good. It's okay because my intentions are good. It's okay because somebody else is being ridiculous. And that's what Richard is going to do here in just a minute. He's going to be exceptionally defensive. He's going to lack accountability. And it's going to be an episode of Jerry Springer. So buckle up. Oof. Emily.
My skirt seems to be holding up very well.
Emily's great with awkward small talk.
Lorelai.
She shook his hand. She just reached out and shook his hand. It completely threw him off. I swear that girl.
This family has an issue with lack of accountability and trying to play things off with levity when everybody else is hurting or angry. Richard has come out. He has not failed to notice the way his wife is looking at him and his daughter. They are both pissed because he lied. He deceived them. He acted like this was just a jaunt around Yale when he was going to foist Yale upon Rory without her consent, without her preparation, and put her in the dean's office. And the more I watch this show, the more I realize this is a family trait. And he comes out and he's like, she just shook his hand. We should all be great. Because now what he's doing is he's creating an environment where I'm happy and you should be happy. And if you're not happy, then you're the problem.
That's not how it works.
Instead of even coming out and saying, okay, look, I understand you're angry and you're probably justified. In fact, you are justified. Like, he could lead with that. Instead, he's going to make them go on the offensive and he's going to go on the defensive. I normally adore Richard. I wanted to kick him in the groin repeatedly.
Ouch.
And not have any ice available afterwards.
You know what? I almost feel like a standing ovation is in order.
If you're going to get dramatic, let's go outside. It echoes in here.
Do I even need to say anything?
What did you think you were doing?
I thought I was helping my granddaughter get into what is, in my opinion, the best Ivy League school in America.
Even though she doesn't want to go here?
She doesn't know she doesn't want to go here.
You're unbelievable, Dad. You cornered her alone the other night without me there.
Of course I did. You wouldn't let her go.
Oh, I wouldn't?
I knew that the last thing in the world that you could want would be for Rory to go to Yale.
And the reason for that would be?
I went to Yale, therefore Rory can't.
Oh, that's right. The crazy reason.
That's all right.
So Richard is assuming pettiness from Lorelai's behavior, and the reason for this is because he has this mentality. Either you agree with me, or you're ridiculous. The real reason Lorelai isn't super keen on Rory going to Yale is because Rory's always said she wanted to go to Harvard. And that's what Lorelai wants for her daughter, is what her daughter wants.
It's your prerogative to feel that way. It's mine to make sure that Rory at least knows all her options.
Aren't you supposed to slap my face with a glove before you do this?
I'm not going to discuss this with you.
What, you lied to everybody, Dad. You lied to me, you lied to Rory. I'm looking at Mom and I'm thinking you lied to her too.
Lorelai, please, let's try and calm down.
This is for Rory's own good.
Rory's going to Harvard.
We'll see.
No, Rory's going to Harvard. It's already been decided without you. Get it? You don't control it. And that little stunt of yours doesn't change that fact one bit.
I'm sorry about the way it had to be done, but I didn't want to argue with you about it.
My whole life, you have tried to control everything, and if you didn't get to control something, then you just didn't deal with it.
I'm sorry about the way it had to be done, but I didn't want to argue with it. It's better to ask forgiveness than permission is bullcrap. Okay, it's better to ask forgiveness than permission is a rule that was invented by children who want to get away with stuff and then face the consequences for mom and dad later. It is not a rule for healthy relationships, especially from a father to a daughter or a grandfather to a granddaughter.
That's ridiculous.
When you couldn't control me, you didn't deal with me.
This has nothing to do with you.
No?
This is about Rory and Rory's education, which, frankly, Lorelai, is something you know nothing about.
Excuse me?
You never went to college, let alone an Ivy League college. You don't know the first thing about the system, the way it works.
Eye twitches.
I do. I went through it. You want Rory to go to Harvard that badly? Well, so do thousands of other mothers. Yale is an excellent school, the equal of Harvard in every way, except one. I went here. I'm an alumnus. That makes it easier for Rory to get in. And if you had any idea about the way the system works, you'd know this.
Oh, so here it is. I knew we would eventually get to the big, my daughter's a loser, poor me.
Here's the thing. Richard has valid points about the Ivy League system, him knowing how it works. The issue is not the points he makes, it's how he makes them and what he chose to do about it. This is what I'm talking about. We believe our cause is just, therefore we believe our actions are just. Because Richard could very easily have sat down with Rory and with Lorelai and said, hey, I know you want to go to Harvard. I respect that. I loved Yale. I think you might love Yale, and I wonder if you'd be interested in exploring that space with me and having a conversation where there's no lies, no deception, and the issue is he didn't trust that they could work through it, so he just enforced his will. And Lorelai's getting defensive, which, you know, happens.
I am not going to leave Rory's education to chance simply because I might risk offending you. Her future is more important than your pride. If you don't like that, I'm sorry. If it makes you angry, well, what else is new? But that, my dear girl, is the way it is.
I'm calling a cab. We're leaving.
Yep. That last thing he said was a complete a-hole move.
I am done with this conversation
you think it's
right
possible
now. I can't do this.
This is where I'm priming the foot for repeated groin kicks. Like, and no, don't come at me in the comments. I'm not advocating physical violence. It's a fictional character. Come on.
It's not real.
He's in such a defensive, unaccountable space. He is justifying. I'm sorry that it had to be this way, but the reason it had to be this way is because of you. The ways that he puts it all on Lorelai. If you're going to be dramatic, let's go outside. I'm sorry you're getting angry, but what else is new, right? And this is more important than your pride and than you getting offended. Instead of, you're a mom, and you and Rory came to this together, and I spat in the face of that and bulldozed it. And he is in such a space of justifying his behavior because his intentions are good. And then Emily is gonna basically follow the same pattern.
Lorelai, come back inside. Lorelai, put the phone away and come back inside.
Man's controls.
I need a number of a cab company. Anyone, pick one. Thanks.
You are not going to take a cab all the way back to Stars Hollow.
Emily, from her position of privilege, is used to having basically hired servants, and she tells them what to do. And the issue is that she brings that into her family life. And that's not just well-to-do people. That's sometimes we're not mindful of the different hats we wear. We see this a lot in military families, right? And how I treat the troops in my position of authority is how I treat my children without respect to these are different relationships, right? Or how I show up at work, et cetera, et cetera. And Emily is treating Lorelai like hired help. And by the way, I think Emily should treat her hired help a lot better than she does. I'm not saying that's okay. I'm just saying she comes out and she tells Lorelai what to do. And Lorelai's had it.
He lied to you too, Mom. Don't you care about that?
That is between me and your father.
Great, whatever. Damn, I just forgot the number.
If you would just calm down and look at it from his point of view.
Hi, in New Haven, I need a cab company, any cab company.
Your father is a very strong-willed man, Lorelai. You know this. You take after him.
Thank you.
He wants the best for Rory. He thinks this is the best.
It doesn't really matter what he thinks. It matters what I think and what Rory thinks, and the list ends there.
So Rory takes a meeting at Yale. That doesn't mean she still won't go to Harvard.
I know it doesn't, because she is still going to Harvard.
If she applies to Yale...
She's not applying to Yale.
And gets into Yale, that might even make her more appealing to Harvard. Have you thought about that?
No, I haven't, because I'm not trying to reason away a crazy man's actions.
Don't do this. Don't turn this into yet another one of your crusades against your childhood. Just let it go. Realize that despite the manner in which your father did this, his intentions were honorable.
You know what, Mom? Sometimes I literally sit around and try to figure out why Dad and I have such an awful relationship. I try to figure out why we can't communicate and why we can't seem to break through whatever crap it is that stands between us. And then something like this happens and suddenly it's like, oh yeah, that's why.
Fine, Lorelai. Your father's a demon. He's cruel and out to destroy your happiness. But think about this. You're fighting so hard to send Rory off to Harvard no matter what that you haven't even stopped for 1 second to consider that if she went to Yale, she could live at home. Consider that on your cab ride.
Gosh. I see this a lot in family therapy. Emily has valid points. If Rory goes to Yale, she could live at home. If she's trying to get into Harvard and she's being courted by Yale, she might be more attractive to Harvard. All valid points. But she's failing to take her own advice. Lorelai, why don't you calm down and try and see things from your father's perspective? And yet, Emily is failing to calm down and see things from Lorelai's perspective, minimizing, justifying, blame shifting, and judging. I'm totally with Lorelai on this one. So later, Rory comes out and confronts her grandpa and says, "Grandpa, if you had told me that you'd like for me to meet with the dean of admissions for Yale, I would have said yes. But now I'm dressed in jeans, I didn't bring my transcripts, I had zero prep time." And she says, "This isn't about my mom. This needed to be handled differently." The fact is, our good intentions don't matter if we burn bridges. Our good intentions don't matter if the people that we care about, we fail to understand their perspective and we fail to show respect for them and their ability to choose. The fact that Richard and Emily have all sorts of they make some really great points, but they could have had these conversations completely differently. And the fact is, would Lorelai have been defensive, resistant? Probably. But she wouldn't have been furious. Rory wouldn't have been furious. And honestly, they probably would have gone to Yale and had a completely different experience with the result that they were hoping for, which is that Rory opens her mind to this possibility. In your relationships, recognize and respect that people are going to choose how they're going to choose. Influence is the key, not control. Whenever you try and control, you hurt people and you trigger resistance. This could have been handled completely differently. Ugh. And if you're like me, you're really riled up right now and you could use some more juicy drama with Richard and Emily and Lorelai. So I want you to check out Dinner Fight, where I talk about that epic moment where everything goes to hell. Which dinner fight? Yeah, I know, there's like dozens on this show. No, the big one, the atomic one. You can watch my video on it here somewhere. Do you agree with the points that I was making here, or is there something that I am missing? And how do you think any of these characters could have handled it better? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep shining. We need your light.